How many of you guys have heard about the Maslow's hierarchy? Well, you know, it's interesting because Maslow's hierarchy is divided into multiple levels, if you will, but I look at it as 3 levels. And, you know, it's interesting because the first level is about survival and security. And on the one hand, while that may be the lowest level on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's interesting, though, that in so many countries in the world, that if you actually have security for yourself and your family, if you have a job, and if you have a housing and enough to eat, actually, that is the most important thing to happiness. Isn't that amazing? And then as you go up in this hierarchy, which the next one I will call success and social, where you're striving in your career and making relationship. And then the last one is what we call self-actualization. And included in that is, I would say, is transcendent and, if you will, non-duality. Non-duality is this concept that we're all one, basically. That there is no, and Deepak Chopra always likes to say this, no subject or object. It's just oneness. We're all interconnected. And so transcendence is the sense of interconnectedness. You know, it's interesting, though, because the place where so many of us struggle are at those 2 lower levels, which is security, survival, success, and social. And that's where, in reality, actually, most of us experience stress and anxiety and these negative emotions. It's when you overcome those that you're able to have transcendence. And what does transcendence mean? It's, if you will, having the time and the insight and the self-awareness to have a desire to understand your meaning and purpose in life, to feel that you are contributing to a greater good, and that contribution is important. And at the end of the day, that gives us our deepest purpose and satisfaction. You know, some people say, you know, a person's legacy is not what they do for themselves, necessarily even for others. It's what people perceive that they've done for others and the impact they've had on others. And this gets back to this whole issue of service, caring, and kindness. When I grew up, and it's interesting because people see me in this position, I'm a professor at Stanford in neurosurgery, and some people would think that neurosurgery is at the peak or the top of the food chain of doctors, if you will, and also being at Stanford has some importance or sense of accomplishment. And the other part of my background, which many of you may or may not know, is that I also was an entrepreneur and ran a company that went public for $1.3 billion. And I've been able to do some philanthropy in that regard. And people think, a lot of people, that, geez, you know, that's easy to do. People who end up in these types of positions, geez, you must have come from an affluent background. You must have had all the privilege. And it, for some people, because they see accomplishments like that not within the realm of their own possibilities because of their own backgrounds or the fact that they haven't been in these types of environments. I'll just share with you how I came to start CCare and perhaps have my own insights. I grew up in poverty. My father was an alcoholic and my mother was an invalid, and my family was on public assistance my entire life. I was the only one who actually went to college in my family. And what happened to me, and perhaps some of you can share this experience, when you come from an environment like that, you feel like you're a leaf being blown by an ill wind. And you have few possibilities. In fact, sometimes you think you have no possibilities. And what happened to me was that I had an extraordinary experience when I was 13 years old. It wasn't my first kiss, though, because that's what you were all thinking, right? What happened was that by that time in my life, I had a lot of fear, anxiety, and was engaging in negative behaviors because I had no real role models. And when you feel that you don't have possibilities, it doesn't matter what you do. So what happened was I was on my Stingray bicycle, and have you had a Stingray bicycle? I know none of you under the age of 40 has had a Stingray bicycle. But in the heyday of people at my age, we used to have these Stingray bicycles, and they had this banana seat with the big thing on the back. Anyway, that summer I was riding around on mine, and I went by a strip mall ways from my house, and there was a magic shop there. And I went into this magic shop, and the owner was not there, who owned the store, right? His mom was there. And do any of you know, if I use the term Earth Mother, what that means? Not in that sense, so you guys. There was a woman there who I would describe as an Earth Mother. She was this woman who was ebullient. She had a big smile on her face. She had dreadlocks. She wore this big, colorful dress, and she greeted me, and I started talking to her. And at the end of about 20 minutes, she said to me, she said, you know, I really like you. It's interesting because Emma and others have talked about the fact that when people smile at you, are complimentary, it suddenly affects you, or can affect you. I listened to her, and at the end of this period of time, she said to me, she said, you know, if you come in here every day for the rest of the summer, which was about 6 weeks which she was there, she said, I'll teach you something that'll change your life. Now, how many of us get the opportunity to have that type of a conversation? So I went, and what she taught me over that period of time was actually the practice of mindfulness meditation. And in conjunction with the visualization technique and incorporated with the power of positive thinking. And that 6-week interaction actually changed my life because it took me from a perception of few to no possibilities to one of having actually endless possibilities. And it's through that one individual who turned me around and gave me a perception, if you will, of the possibility and transformation that can occur with mind training. And fundamentally, that interaction is responsible for the fact that I'm here today, and really probably for a great many of my accomplishments in life. And I tell you that story to show you the power of mind training. I tell you that story also to indicate that each and every one of us, no matter who we are, no matter our station in life, no matter how much we have, well, the one thing every one of us has is the ability to positively affect another person's life. You know, probably, and Chris had mentioned his involvement with the Dalai Lama. Imagine my own situation where I had been interested in this topic of being compassionate after that experience. And this, I got it. This concept of, you know, why are there people who have the ability, the position, the means that really don't intervene when they see people suffering. And what is it about people who really have nothing, and in fact, oftentimes are suffering greatly, who will give you anything? And what is that paradox? And that really is ultimately what led me to continue this exploration when I went to Stanford, and has actually allowed me the great privilege of founding the center at Stanford, which Dr. Cook had mentioned his own involvement with the Dalai Lama. The Dalai Lama actually gave me the largest sum he's ever given to a non-Tibetan cause after one meeting with him, and that was to found CCARE. And that journey that started with CCARE has actually led me all over the world to have conversations with some of the greatest leaders, if you will, and individuals who, by their actions, exemplify compassion in action. And it's really been an amazing blessing. It's been an amazing learning experience. And it's really emphasized for me, and I think by the work you see being demonstrated today, the power that being kind and compassionate has, and also its transformational ability. The last thing I'd like to share with you along this journey that I've told you about is an idea that I've been working on, and with some individuals here as well, is the idea of the creation of a global compassion initiative. You know, there was what we call the Age of Enlightenment, and it went on for, depending on who's counting, somewhere between 70 and 100 years, or maybe still be going on. I would submit to you that we are in an age of compassion, but we're in the early part of that age. And this is the age that's going to define whether our species survives. And this Global Compassion Initiative is a coming together of a number of people and groups to promote this movement, to act as a curator and an aggregator of these types of things that are happening, and to give support. One component of that hopefully we will be able to accomplish, and of which the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu are the honorary co-chairs, and of which Sri Sri Ravi Shankar and Eckhart Tolle and Deepak Chopra and others are involved, is the idea of a World Compassion Festival, where we bring a few 100,000 youth to service to those problems that are greatest facing our humanity. And on top of that, we have concerts each and every day, and this little event will go on for about 3 or 4 days. And then on top of that, those individuals I just named, with members of government, education, business, we'll have workshops and plenary sessions where we really try to examine how we are functioning within society, within our world, and to create, if you will, an ethos of compassion that can permeate the world. One of the ways we're doing this is the idea of creating 100 compassionate cities. Chris had mentioned his own city becoming a compassionate city. Imagine 100 compassionate cities throughout the world who integrate education, business, city government, community, religious and volunteer organizations, all to create this ethos of compassion and a safety net for its most vulnerable members. And then while we have this World Compassion Festival, we also broadcast this to every one of those compassionate cities throughout the world while they have their own festival. And hopefully by doing so, we show that there is a great desire and need in our society, and hopefully allow that to permeate the globe. So I just want to tell you about that, tell you a little bit about my own story, and thank each and every one of you for being here today with our wonderful speakers. So thank you.